EJ Smith, the man, the myth, the legend. We hung out in Mobile a couple days ago. Now we're here in Vegas. We're just world traveling together. And not only that, you had the pleasure of being on the same flight as us out here.
PHLY charter, right?
That's right. That was a good line. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know, I want to say first time, long time. You know, I have you guys on my television a lot. My wife and my dogs, you know, they're very familiar with your voices and the cadence of the show. So, no, I appreciate you guys having me.
Is your dog offended by how much Bo teases me?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that my dogs are probably a little bit Team Bo here. You know, it's good for the show. It's comedy. So.
Okay.
It's all love.
Love in Vegas, right?
I mean, I guess. I don't know. This is not a tease.
Okay.
But you were there. I think we both witnessed what felt like sort of an existential borderline breakdown from Zach on the plane when the Wi-Fi was not working. Now, like the entertainment was working. You know, this is like an 8 o'clock flight, 5-hour flight to Vegas. So you could try to sleep, but tough decision. Obviously, Zach's going to want to be working, and I saw the drink cart coming through, and I know I could see because you were one row ahead of me and one row behind EJ, and I could see you like you don't want to bother anybody. I know that you don't want to impose, but you got some work that you want to get done. You're like, is there any chance I'm going to fix the Wi-Fi?
If I didn't say it like that, I said, excuse me, will the Wi-Fi be operational on this flight? And she explained to me that the Wi-Fi is not available, but all the entertainment is. But the entertainment doesn't write stories for me, right? So, I like to work on flights. I find it inefficient if I'm not. And so I did watch a good Barry Sanders documentary.
I like that. I like that doc.
I had some books I wanted to get to, but I said, you know what, I can catch some sleep. And so I put on The Office, fell asleep for a bit. But no, I did miss that Wi-Fi, and I know EJ did too, because EJ had a good story in The Inquirer today.
Yeah, I felt a little bad. I mentioned that on our way to the hotel. Like, oh, yeah, I got something coming up at 5 a.m. I just saw Zach's face drop. Like, oh, I got beat to the punch on that one.
Well, if you were in Houston with Jalen Hurts, I mean, my face would drop all the way to the ground, right? Which you've done very well in the past,
I appreciate it.
So it's cool having EJ on, although you said first time, long time. It's your first time on set with us.
Yeah.
But you did have a great spot last week from Mobile with Bo.
Yes. And Olivia.
And Olivia.
You got her those pretzels.
Yeah.
Olivia talking about the pretzels. So that was like your...
These pretzels are making me thirsty.
That was like your orientation. That was your slow tease into the sicko community here at PHLY. So anyways, it's awesome to have you here.
It's great to be here.
And we have a lot to pick your brain about.
I do. I have one other thing to get to, speaking of Mobile, before we get to the Eagle stuff.
Yeah.
I do want to get on the record this interaction that I witnessed when we were at dinner together. And Ben Solak, great guy, came over to say hi. And he, I had to introduce the two of you to each other. He didn't know who you were. You've covered him on that show.
I'm like,
how does he not know who you are?
I'm like Moonlit Ben. Like, you know, if Ben's not there, I kind of stand in for him. And I think we had met one time, so I'm not gonna lie. Like, it hurt my ego a little bit. I wasn't offended at all.
Okay.
No. We met at the Super Bowl last year, kind of very quickly.
He's a busy guy.
So,
He's got a lot of people to meet.
I try not to ever insult someone by being like, "Hi, my name is EJ." If I've met them before, because then they think I didn't remember the time we met.
Sure, so, but you also want to give them the out of, if they don't remember your name, you want to give them the name.
Yeah.
I know we've met before. I'm Bo. Yeah.
So the solution here is you never say nice to meet you. Always say nice to see you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the key.
That's a good tip right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Just substitute meet for see.
Yeah.
And then you're in the clear, because it is offensive when it's like it's nice to meet you. It's like, actually we met before. Yeah. So
what if it is definitely the first time? Would you still, if you know for sure that? Okay.
Yeah, it's always nice to nice to see you always works. Hey, Zach, nice to see you. Right.
How much longer until you have a self-help book for these types of things?
That's a great
you are
question.
such a resource for professional development and handling these types of situations.
I know
your next book.
I'd love to read 101 sayings to live your life by Zach Berman.
I mean, I can get you to 1,001, honestly.
I mean, I'm trying to save you the work, but
never be afraid of work.
Yeah, but say Zach's not afraid.
Yeah, never be afraid of work.
Okay.
Yeah, just like Jim Harbaugh. Did you say he wants to live in the RV next to the team facility?
How lovely for his wife.
I'm envious of that. That's awesome, right? Get right to work. It's more efficient that way.
You guys got something wrong with you, but it's nice. All right, AJ, let me ask you this question. Open-ended. Now that the coaching staff is mostly settled, what do you think is in Howie Roseman's mind the number one priority heading into the offseason?
Well, broad spectrum, I think the defense in general. I think that they've got issues on multiple levels. I think the defensive front is talented enough, but we all know that Howie likes to target those positions, whether it's defensive tackle or edge rusher. But when you look at it, I honestly feel like the secondary is the thing that they need to rework the most. I think when you look at Vic Fangio's defenses, there's a lot of versatility that's required. There's a lot of, dynamism. Dynamism, thank you. You've done this before. Yeah, there's a lot. You need these playmakers. You need guys who can kind of, muddy the picture and get to spots. So I think that the secondary is probably the area that is most pressing in terms of you need a corner, I would imagine, and you need a safety, at least one safety. So, I think that's where I would start.
So if I can follow up on the corner thing here, and this is, I imagine, I'm giving you a little sneak peek of a talking point you might hear from the Eagles this offseason. And they're going to say Keely Ringo is our third-round pick. They traded a third-round pick. They traded their 2024 third-round pick to get Keely Ringo, 20 years old when they drafted him. And I imagine what they'll say is if you put Keely Ringo in this year's draft, he would go before the third round. Now, he'd be 21 this year. I actually thought I wasn't impressed during training camp. I said that then. I thought he closed the year well, and he gives them promise. Now, I understand you need more than one young corner. But do you think the discussion of, cornerbacks, this long-term need, do you think it's missing the Keely Ringo factor because they might say Keely Ringo would have had a second-round grade if he was in this year's draft?
Possibly, but I feel like they need a legitimate playmaker at one of those spots. I think when you look at Vic Fangio's previous stops.
So the pick six in the Super Bowl is not the in the national championship? It's not, okay.
Not quite, yeah, no. Okay. I think if you look at Vic Fangio's previous stops, he's had guys like Jalen Ramsey. He's had guys like Patrick Surtain. I think that the defense that he runs, listen, I think he's a flexible coach. Mm-hmm. I don't think that he has to have exactly what he's had at his previous stops. But when you looked at what he's been successful with in the past, he hasn't. It's not been just guys at those positions. And I think Keely Ringo could be a competent starter, but I think they maybe should aspire for more than that if they want to run the defense that Fangio has run in the past.
I sort of feel like from a long-term roster building perspective, Keely Ringo is your James Bradbury replacement, and they need to use the draft to find their Darius Slay replacement.
Yeah, I think it's a good observation. I think it wouldn't surprise me. I know that the last few years there have been corners that have been on their radar. I think they view it as a premium position.
They do.
Right. It wouldn't surprise me if their first round pick was a corner this year.
I also think, to your point about the secondary, if you say water gun to my belly button right now, what is the position that the Eagles' biggest spending player in free agency, their biggest outlay is going to be to what position? I think it's safety, and I would put a lot of turkeys on that, I feel like.
So I haven't done a ton of I'm just getting started on the draft stuff, but I know that Zach has to love Cooper DeJean, and I kind of just want to throw him out here.
Why?
Because he's one of these guys, a playmaker. He feels a little bit, no offense, Zach, he feels a little bit like the esoteric draft nerds, type of player. Are you not in on Cooper DeJean?
I'm not as crazy about him as I think the draft.
I bet
nerds
Chip
might
loves
be.
him.
I do think Iowa defenders are well coached. Phil Parker's a heck of a defense coordinator.
Well, he intrigues me because this is a guy who could probably play safety. He might be a safety, honestly, but get a chess piece and figure out where he fits. You mentioned the Slay replacement. If Slay's back next year, which I would assume he would be,
I think so,
then you can play Cooper DeJean at safety for a year and then see, he's a chess piece. Again, he's not, married to one position. So I was intrigued by Cooper DeJean. Again, I'm early in the draft process. I haven't been, pulling up my YouTube, all snaps versus one defense or one offense yet. But I thought he was an intriguing name.
I just sort of feel like as they plot it out, you've got, they feel good about Sidney Brown long-term. You can't count on him necessarily making a big impact this year. We'll see how his rehab goes.
Yeah.
You've got Reed Blankenship as another good young player, has had some injury concerns, but you can sort of pencil him in. They need a guy who is Kevin Byard from 3 years ago. It's a pretty good safety. It's a pretty good safety class of free agents. It's a much more guesswork from rookies at that position.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to use a premium pick on a safety and think that this guy is going to come in and be ready right away to be the guy who Vic Fangio relies on.
Right.
Whereas I think they would do that with a veteran.
Yeah, and I mean, you're right. It's a good class. Xavier McKinney, Cam Curl's in that class. Antoine Winfield's in the class, but like, is he going to make it out of Tampa Bay? I kind of doubt it. So there are a lot of options for sure.
And there's some also potential salary cap casualties. Quandre Diggs could come free from Seattle, a couple other guys. So that's sort of how I feel about that going. How about you, Zach?
Yeah, if I had to use the turkeys on a free agent signing, I would think safety. To your point, I think that's a spot where Howie has kind of trusted free agency more than the draft.
Sure.
He's talked in the past about the challenge of evaluating safeties coming out, and some of it's based on scheme, some of it's, with the college offenses now. That might be a dated way of thinking, because college offenses and NFL offenses are somewhat comparable. But it has been a challenging position for them to evaluate. And like you said, I think it's a deep free agent safety class, and I don't think it's a particularly good safety draft class unless you're moving a corner over to safety like a Cooper DeJean. I also think, and I've been saying this, I like some of these linebackers in this draft class. So I don't think that's a position where I would rush to sign someone, because I think you can find in the second or third round someone who can be an every down linebacker for you, whether it is Junior Colson, whether it is a Cooper from Texas A&M. I know everyone in Philly wants Jeremiah Trotter Jr., right? But I think there's some decent linebackers in this class, and I would rather sign a safety and draft a linebacker than sign a linebacker and draft a safety.
Well, it doesn't have to be either or.
It doesn't have to be either or.
And I actually sort of disagree about linebacker. I think we have seen that play out enough of we don't need to sign a linebacker in free agency. We'll see how the draft plays out, and then we'll address it afterwards. I do not think that they can just say, well, we've got Nakobe Dean. We don't need another linebacker right now. I think they need to sign somebody of the just a little bit above the Kaiser White level, like a $3 or $4 million guy. Now, it is not a great class of free agent linebackers, it looks like, so that might be easier said than done. But also, I don't think they should spend a second-round pick on a linebacker. I think their draft valuation of the position makes sense to me. I think they should use 1 or 2 fifth-round picks on the position. But I do not think that they can just be like, well, Nakobe, we love the player, we love the person, we're ready to go there. I think that's a place where they probably do need, for Vic's defense, somebody of a higher floor.
As much as Howie has talked about, the safety position as being hard to evaluate, if you look at his track record drafting linebackers, especially on day 2, it's really spotty. I mean, it's Davion Taylor and it's Nakobe Dean in the last few years. I think he has as much trouble evaluating that position as safety at this point.
I don't think I hear you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think at linebacker it's more the valuation than the evaluation, because they just don't want to spend those resources on linebackers. And they think that's a position where you could draft and develop, where you can find bargain players. And when it works, you get TJ Edwards and you get Kaiser White. When it doesn't work, you get Zach Brown. Or
but to your point, they've used 2 third-round picks on the position.
Right, they have used some resources on it.
Well, we don't know if Dean hasn't worked out yet, but yeah.
Sure, no, you're right. Dean could come back next year healthy and play really well. But at the very least, the Davion Taylor pick, that is the starting linebacker that this defense is missing in some ways.
Exactly.
They have used resources on it. They just haven't been able to really. I guess what I would concede is that it's been both. It's been the evaluation and the valuation.
I'm still standing by Jeremy Chinn being an Eagle next year, whether it's at safety, whether it's a weak side linebacker type thing. I think Jeremy Chinn's going to be an Eagle next year.
Okay. Now, just to follow up on the earlier super chat. It is in reference to another super chat here. The super question was for a super game among friends. They wanted to get the ruling from Bo. And this is the problem with Swooper. If you don't clarify it, you have to do these things in advance. And so, it feels a little bit cheap to say that an Eagle wins something. Is Jason Kelce being on the winning NFC team count for that? It feels like that's probably not the spirit of the proposition. But also, you can't necessarily argue with that by the letter of the law.
If you think about the Bo Wolf legacy in life, where does people playing Swooper independently fall on that list? Because that is impressive that all of a sudden you've created this game that a faction of Eagles fans are playing among friends.
Probably at the top.
Wow, that's a big deal, and it's a credit to you. That is your game. It took me 2 years to understand what the game was, so credit to these listeners and viewers who picked it up pretty quickly.
What else is on your radar for the offseason, EJ?
I love the draft. I know I'm late to it this year, but the draft is always something that I really try to dive into. Like, I'm kind of like you guys. Like, I take it as a real point of pride if I get, a mock draft pick right, or just like identify somebody, especially the later round guys.
Now you have to adjudicate that because he made a noise.
Yes.
You heard that noise.
I was ready to say. So, have you heard this debate? Have we had it off camera?
That Bo cast a wide net?
Yeah, he predicted
No.
to
Okay,
be,
so here
he
you go.
predicted Nolan Smith to be the 10th
Yeah.
overall pick.
No,
Does he get credit for that if he goes 30th?
I predicted that Nolan Smith would be the Eagles' first-round pick. Nolan Smith was the Eagles' first-round
you
pick.
predicted he would be the Eagles' first-round pick.
The Eagles didn't draft at number 10, so no one got it right, unless you predicted a trade.
It's sequentially, there were 2 picks. You predicted he would be the first one.
I said
he went 200% later in the draft than you predicted him to go.
I said Nolan Smith was going to be a first-round pick. Nolan Smith was their first-round pick. I mean, Bo, if this was you, you'd be. It is true.
So beneath you.
Beneath me. I mean, Bo, it's literal. It's fact.
It's your worst argument.
That Nolan Smith's going to be a first-round pick, and Nolan Smith was a first-round pick. I said they liked Nolan Smith in the first round. I said 10 because I thought Jalen Carter was going to be off the board, but I thought they were going to take Nolan Smith. They took Nolan Smith.
Did you ever say that they were going to trade back? I feel like I remember you saying they might trade back and
I
get
did,
it.
yeah. A matter of fact, that's what I said. I said this would be an interesting trade back candidate. I thought it'd be in
From
the mid-teens.
10.
Yeah, in the teens. So, look, I predicted them taking Nolan Smith in the first round.
It's so beneath you.
You're just upset that you haven't had the same hit rate. This is what
I'm
3
not
years in a
upset.
3 years in a row that I've nailed the first
That
round
you've
pick.
just done the popular thing. Yeah, that's fine.
I had them taking Jordan Davis. I had them taking Devontae Smith. Look, I mean.
Yeah, those were correct.
Okay.
You got those right. This one you did not get right.
But they didn't take any of those players at the spot that I said they were going to take them.
You didn't have the Jordan Davis trade up?
It's so different.
I didn't have the trade up. Well, because I don't predict trades for my final mock draft.
I'm going to take a whiff here. I had the Jordan Davis trade up.
Yeah?
Yeah, I had it.
Okay, that's a good. That's,
I figured
now you
like-
had the exact trade up. You had them going to Baltimore.
Yeah, I said that they had they had to
or-
leapfrog Baltimore to get
Okay.
it. Yeah, which hasn't really worked
Bad
out
pick.
for them so far. Yeah.
Wait, so you're a draft guy, as you said. Now, I like this term, you're late to the draft, because I keep hearing that. Does that mean that you're just not watching college football on Saturday? Does that mean you're just grinding the tape now? Like, if I asked you 2 months ago who Cooper DeJean was, would you have known who he was?
No, I'm not
Okay.
a college football sicko like you.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I mean, I try, but it's tough during the season. You got. I don't know how you do it. Like, you've got kids and actual obligations. Like, I just like to spend time with my family or be out of the house on a Saturday. But I
Live a
wouldn't
healthy
have.
life, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known as much about Cooper DeJean 2 months ago. So when I say I'm late, I haven't I've watched some of these guys on TV, but I haven't sat down and I like to watch full games of guys. It's hard to get the all-22 for me at least. Maybe you guys are plugged in enough to get it. But for me, I at least want to watch guys full games against some of the better offenses that they play or the defenses that they play before I can really render a legitimate opinion of my. I wouldn't sit here and tell you what Cooper DeJean is good at or bad at yet because I haven't dove into the film. I haven't crunched the film yet.
I respect
yeah.
that.
Got to crunch that.
Yeah, got to eat some film. Yeah, that's what's next for me after the Super Bowl.
So we're at the Super Bowl here, okay? And this is your second Super Bowl. You're here last year. Okay, what do you get most excited for Super Bowl week? What gets your juices flowing Super Bowl week?
Media night is interesting. It's definitely productive if you can make it productive. So that was, again, this is the beginning of my second time. So I thought media night was really great last year, being able to get some people that you maybe otherwise wouldn't have been able to get. And then really, honestly, Zach, it all becomes a blur until the game. And then the game, I'll be honest, last year, it's funny, Les Bowen, name drop Les Bowen, a mentor of mine, somebody who I appreciate greatly.
Shout out to Les.
Yeah, he told me before the week started, make sure you take a second to appreciate that you're there.
That's
and
nice.
Just kind of
more Bowen, I say.
Yeah, right. So
that is a
basically,
Bo joke if I ever heard one.
just take a step back and appreciate it. And it's funny because I didn't do it. He warned me. It's it's going to be a blur, and it was. I think when the team you cover is here, you're just so focused on the work and the competition. Waking up every morning and seeing what you guys had written, and Zach's Darius Slade banana pudding story really. that felt like the counterpunch for the Hurt story you mentioned earlier. That really
thank you.
really dug at me because I wanted to do that story. So
I thought I had a
especially
decent Super Bowl last year. Yeah, I was happy about that.
Yeah,
Thank
you had an excellent Super Bowl,
Thank you.
Zach. Yeah, especially as a lifelong fan of banana pudding, it really hurt that you got that story ahead of me.
I'd still take the Hurts and Houston story, but okay.
Yeah, so it was a blur last year. So honestly, like I remember media night being like a good opportunity, and I remember the game. Like that was like the 1 second I got to be like, okay, like I'm about to cover the Super Bowl. You know, like college version of myself would have really thought that this was a cool opportunity.
So my advice there, I'm
happy
sorry,
to take
someone who had a great Super Bowl last year.
As someone who got the Darius Slay banana pudding story.
I won't live that down, won't I? Sorry. Yeah, I said decent, not great. There were some things I would have liked better. But no, in general, national anthem. Take the national anthem before a preseason game, before a regular season game, before the Super Bowl. Like, use that time like, man, this is pretty cool, right? That's the Les Bowen, like, make sure you take time to appreciate it.
Yeah.
The national anthem's a good time to take inventory of, like, this is a pretty cool moment.
So then I'll get, like, the Nick Sirianni tears, like the pre-Super Bowl
That's
emotions.
exactly what Nick did.
I actually find the national anthem at the Super Bowl, I found myself getting a little bit emotional
Really?
because it's like everybody here, this is the most important thing. Like, this is, there's so much energy in the building at that point.
Yeah, and I can't remember the name of the artist who did the national anthem last year. Country singer Chris Stapleton. Yeah. He's
Good
great.
for you, Zach.
Yeah, big
Covered
fan
the
of
Super
music
Bowl,
over here.
yes.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Did you watch the Grammys last night?
I did not. He was great. I appreciate his guitar playing as a fellow guitar player. So, it was definitely a good national anthem last year.
Give us like 60 seconds on your guitar.
Ooh.
Sickodom.
I am a gear nerd for sure. I'm kind of a recovering gear nerd, getting out of it a little bit because it is as my mom would put it, a rabbit trail. You get stuck down the trail and you can't turn around.
Oh, I've never heard that before.
But yeah, no, I'm a big fan of like old guitars. I've got like a Martin acoustic that like is from 1959. That's like my prized possession.
Wow.
I'm a big Jimi Hendrix fan, big Stevie Ray Vaughan fan. I'm kind of like a blues dad. Like that's an expression in the guitar world. Like I don't
What does
play
that
like
mean?
it means you play like blues music that was popular like in the 70s.
What's
and
the
80s.
song? What's the
That's
example?
great. That sounds great to me.
Honestly, like just like it's called a 12-bar blues. You've heard
Okay.
it before, but I play a lot of Jimi Hendrix stuff, and honestly, like my I don't know if it's a guilty appreciation, but I really love John Mayer. I know John Mayer's kind of like
Okay.
a polarizing figure. Maybe not the person John Mayer, but
Sure.
the musician. He's awesome. He's like the last of a I know I'm over 60 seconds, but you got me going here. John Mayer is like the last like guitar hero. Like every other guitar hero is now like Instagram famous, but not actually famous.
Oh.
He's like the last one that like is a household name that is awesome at guitar.
How's
Okay.
Jordan Mailata's strong? Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped on you there.
Go ahead.
No,
Jordan Mailata's guitar playing?
Yeah.
He's pretty good. He needs a bigger guitar. I keep
Okay.
telling him, you need a nicer guitar, but B, like, your guitar, like, looks so tiny in your hands. So, but he's a pretty good player.
Wish I had that problem.
Yeah, I would say, like, Jordan and I might be, I might say I'm a better guitar player than Jordan.
Good for you.
I might say
I
that,
want to take your offensive line history as well. Give me your starting 5 offensive linemen of guitar players.
Ooh.
Of guitar players?
Yes. Just like based
How do
on
you do
like their
that?
style. Like
okay.
Is left
who's
tackle
going to be
most
the
important?
the center is going to
Okay.
be the most
Okay.
cerebral,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, let's do this.
The
So,
left tackle is the most
I'm
physically
taking Jordan
talented.
Mailata because he's technically a musician, so I'm putting him at left tackle.
Okay.
I'm going to put B.B. King at center. Cerebral.
Oh, love that.
Yeah,
Love that.
cerebral. He's a big guy, so he's not going to get pushed around.
And he can take whatever's coming and go in that direction.
Yeah,
love
great
that.
innovator. From there, I feel like can I add a tight end? Can I put
Yeah, sure.
Jimi Hendrix at tight end just because
okay.
he's a talented guy. He'll figure it out.
And he's like Kelce. He'll just sort of riff and do whatever he
Yeah,
wants
exactly.
in the
Yeah,
route.
he's the creative type.
Okay.
I don't think that the Venn diagram of like guitar players who are also big enough to play offensive line
Well,
really
sure,
stretches
but we're
that
talking
far.
skill sets. Yeah.
There's a guy named Kingfish who's definitely big enough to play guitar or play offensive line. He's
Okay.
pretty good. He might be one of my guards.
Okay.
And then from there, I couldn't tell you. But put me in there. I
Okay.
can play right tackle. Yeah, I could do that.
All
Maybe
right.
not at the NFL level, but none of these guys are going to be that good.
Okay,
So
I like that.
Yeah, so that's a 4 out of 5 for you at least.
All right, that's solid. Well, EJ Smith, thank you so much. Where can our sickos follow you and read you?
EJ Smith 94 on Twitter.
Was that your high school number?
94? No, that's my birth year.
Right there, yeah.
Too young.
Yeah, and then Inquirer.com/EJ Smith. I probably shouldn't say this on air, but they gave me like the author page, like that's literally
As they
just my
should.
name. And then they told me that they weren't allowed to do that. so they told me to keep it under wraps. But I feel like every chance I get, I tell people that story. So yeah, Inquirer.com/EJ Smith. You can find my work there. So.
Awesome.
EJ is awesome on the Eagles beat. Make sure you check out everything he writes.
Everybody knows
Everything
that.
he writes
I
out.
appreciate you guys. I really do.
Thank you very much, EJ. Good stuff.
We all silly like the mayor.